Hey, what's up, all of you beautiful subscribers? Welcome back to the Chapple Show. So what we're going to be talking about today is what it takes to become a billionaire. So this is not the same as what it takes to become a millionaire or a multimillionaire. You usually have to do very, very different things with your life if you want to join the 3 comma club versus being a millionaire or a multimillionaire. So for example, if you wanted to be a millionaire or a multimillionaire, usually you have to do a few things. You have to have a decent paying job, usually around $60,000 to $100,000 on average over the course of your lifetime. You usually have to save your money, you have to invest some of it in the stock market, and buy a house. Usually you do those things, you have a good shot at becoming a millionaire or even a multimillionaire, by the time you're 50 or 60 years old. But becoming a billionaire is very, very different. Okay, so I looked over the Forbes 400 list of some of the wealthiest people in the world, and this is kind of what I found. So number one is almost a requirement. It is start a business. This is nearly a requirement to become a billionaire. You either start a business by yourself and it becomes worth over $1 billion by growing it, or you're a co-founder of a business and you and a few partners build a multi-billion-dollar business. That's the majority of the people on the Forbes 400 list are business owners, started a business, or are co-founders of a business. All right, I think actually looking at the Forbes 400 list, I think it was 84% of the people on the Forbes 400 are self-made. So 16% actually, which we're not going to talk about very much because you can't just, you can become a billionaire if your dad was a billionaire, right? And then he passes away and you get his company or something like that, right? Or your mother, whoever owns it, right? So we're not going to talk about that, but usually you have to start a business. Think about it. Think about Warren Buffett started Berkshire Hathaway. Whoever you can go Facebook, Amazon, whoever you want to talk about, Facebook, Amazon, name a big multi-billion-dollar company out there, and I'll show you a billionaire that started that business. That's usually what happens. So starting a business is it's almost a requirement. So we're going to move on to the next one here. Number 2, join a startup. Or join a business early on. Because startup, people think of a startup as a tech company, but it doesn't have to be a tech company all the time. Just joining a business early on can make you a billionaire. So for example, Charlie Munger. Charlie Munger joined Berkshire Hathaway, right? He wasn't the founder, right? That was Warren Buffett. But Charlie Munger got in early, became Warren Buffett's best friend and essentially advisor, and throughout their lives they made business decisions together. He was a high up executive. I forget what his title is, but he's high up there, joined early on, worth a couple $1 billion, I think, right now. So you have to join early on if you want to you either have to start a business or join a business early on. Those are the 2 things that we've covered here. But that's pretty much, honestly, you look over the Forbes 400 list, and that's the vast majority. Now, there's one more I want to include here. I'm not going to write this down. It's not as important. The third thing you can do if you want to become a billionaire is actually invest early on in a startup business. So someone like Peter Thiel. So Peter Thiel actually, by the way, he was a co-founder of PayPal, so he actually was a business person, became very wealthy after PayPal sold to eBay. But Peter Thiel, what made him a billionaire was Facebook, investing in Facebook. I think he invested $500,000 for 10% of Facebook. Was it 500K? Yes, 500K for like 8 to 10% of Facebook really early on. Then obviously when they IPO'd, he cashed out, made, ungodly amounts of money, right? So those are the 3 things you usually have to do. But you notice the trend here is that you either have to, again, start a business, join a business early on, or invest in a business early. You don't see a lot of people making too much money from just being, an executive at some big company, right? Now that happens in some cases, but you usually have to be close to the founder of a business if you want to become a billionaire. So we're going to talk about some other stuff here. So those are just some of the key requirements, I should say. Now we're going to talk about some of the habits that a lot of these people have, a lot of billionaires have. So this one's talked about also by Peter Thiel. This one's called Polymath. This is something that I've talked about a lot if you just want to be a business owner, but Peter Thiel, again, you may disagree with him on some things, I do for sure, but this is one of the things that I completely agree with him on. So being a polymath. So what's a polymath? Is that you really have to be good at a lot of things. You have to know a lot of things. It's like being a jack of all trades. You have to know how to do you're not a specialist in any one area for the most part. But for example, you start a tech company, You usually have to know a little bit how to code, a little bit how to sell, a little bit how to market, a little bit how to brand, a little bit how to communicate, a little bit how to hire. You have to know a little bit about everything if you want to start a company. And so Peter Thiel, it was interesting because when he mentioned that, he was talking about, him and Elon Musk and a few other people were the founders of PayPal. And so that was brought up because he was talking about Elon Musk. And people were asking about Elon Musk, and they were saying that pretty much like, what do you think of Elon Musk? What do you think of him as a marketer or whatever? He's like, no, he's more of a polymath. He's not special. Like, he's really good at engineering. He's good at marketing, but he's kind of decent at everything. He had to learn how to publicly speak. He stumbles a little bit. So do I. So does everyone. But again, that's one of the things. You pretty much have to be a polymath. You have to be decent at a lot of things. Now, I know I'm going to get some pushback on that one because you look at people like, but you know what? Here's better. Again, Warren Buffett's very specialized in the financial market, but you know what he's really good at? Hiring people. He's really good at communicating, publicly speaking, marketing. He's good at a lot of things. You look at any like Mark Zuckerberg, whatever, really good at coding, big ideas, good at hiring, good at expanding, good at raising money. You have to be good at a lot of things. So being a polymath is very, very important. All right, we're going to move on here to the next thing. And so what does that mean for you guys? Is that when you do start a business, it does take a lot, and you're going to have a lot of learning to do when you start. And your first business might fail, your second one might fail, your fifth one might fail. But as long as you learn something from each one of those failures, that's what's important. Because you're going to fail early on. Everyone does. Almost everyone. You very rarely hit a home run on your first at bat. But it does happen. All right, we're going to move on to number 4 here. Calculated risks. You have to take calculated risks. This is what, by the way, risks, I mean big, big, big risks, all right? The best example I like to give is Elon Musk, is probably the best example of this for the biggest risk, maybe in the history of business. Not in the history of business, but in last 15 years or so. So Elon Musk, he cashed out with PayPal. So when he sold PayPal, when they sold PayPal to eBay, he got several $100 million, I believe, or I forget what the number was, hundreds of millions of dollars. And so what he did was, yeah, sure, he did some, stuff. He bought a nice car. He lived a good life with a few $1 million, but he invested most of that into a few different companies. SpaceX and Tesla were the two big ones. What people don't know, because now they are such giant companies, is that they were both pretty much a few days away from being bankrupt. And so when SpaceX, he was running out of money, had a couple $1 million left, and SpaceX had 2 failed launches. I think it was 2 or 3 failed launches, and he only had enough money. He had a few $1 million. It was enough for one more test at a rocket for SpaceX, and if it failed, he has no money left. SpaceX goes bankrupt. Tesla probably might fail, because he has no money left to put in any funding for it anymore. And so what he did was, instead of cashing out, taking his last few $1 million and running, he put his last few $1 million into one more rocket launch, and it worked. And SpaceX was deemed as a success. They were able to get some contracts. They were able to build up, but they were one launch away from failing. Same with Tesla too. Tesla was, I think it was a day or 2 away. And Elon Musk talks about this all the time, about how they were running out of money. He had a few days left, maybe a day or 2 left. He was working. He didn't sleep for a couple of days. And then a call comes in saying that he's able to get some money. But again, he put in all of his money. Hundreds of millions of dollars. It was almost down to zero. He had a few $1 million left. He could have cashed out, lived a nice life somewhere. But no, he put it all in. He went all into those companies. You have to take big calculated risks if you want to become a billionaire. So for example, you look at pretty much anyone that starts a $1 billion company. They usually put in all of their money into the company when they start. Even if it's $20,000 in savings, they usually put most of that money in just to try and start a business. That's it with all entrepreneurship too. You have to take calculated risks. Now, don't take stupid risks, by the way. Don't put in all of your money into a car wash business that you heard a friend Jimmy said it would have been a good investment. Don't do that. But taking good calculated risks, that's a requirement to become a billionaire. We're going to move on to number 5 here. Number 5 is college, and then not really. Okay, so college, not really. What does this mean? Pretty much everyone that is a billionaire, not everyone, but the majority either went to college and graduated or went to college and then dropped out. I'm shocked that the amount of billionaires that actually dropped. I'm not shocked, but here's why. I'm not shocked that a bunch of people dropped out, because here's what happens. Think about what happens in your 20s. This is from Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Outliers, I think. Think about, it might have been Outliers. I forget what book it was actually. But think about it. Going to college, you're 20 or so years old, 19, 20, 21 years old. That is the time of your life when you have the least amount of responsibility and you can take the biggest risks. You also are at a good enough age where you're 20, 21 years old where you can have some money because you could technically be in the workforce too part-time. So in that age, like the 18 to even 25, 28 years old, like before you want to settle down and start a family for the most part, even 30 years old, from that time, that's the time when you're in the workforce, you can have some savings to start a business, but you also don't have a lot of risks. You don't have a family to support. You don't have children. You don't have all that stuff that would typically weigh down an entrepreneur in the future if you're 40 or 50 years old. You don't have that in your 20s. So college, not really. What I pretty much mean by that is they all started their businesses in their 20s. Almost all of them. That's usually the magic time to start. Now, there are exceptions. Ray Kroc, when he took over McDonald's, he was 50. Colonel Sanders, a similar story. I think even maybe Walt Disney too, actually. But again, there's examples of people starting businesses in their 40s, 50s, 60s and end up becoming billionaires. But for the most part, if you want to be a billionaire, you got to usually start in your 20s or even early 30s, or at least before you have a family and a bunch of responsibility. Okay, we're going to move on here to number 6. Number 6 is take your time. This is something that if I were to say this in Silicon Valley, I would get lit on fire saying, what are you talking about? But the average age of a billionaire is 63 years old. And they usually become a billionaire when they're in their 50s. For example, Warren Buffett, he started Berkshire Hathaway when he was about 30 years old. So again, right, I think he might have actually had kids at the time when he started, so he might be an exception to that, what I said before. But he had a net worth of about $1 million when he was 30. So again, he had savings. He went through his 20s. He had savings. And it took him 24 years to become a billionaire. 24 years. It is a long grind. Even if you think about it, like the quickest time someone's become a billionaire, is probably Snapchat, the Snapchat guys or Instagram guys. It took them 4 or 5 years, but it takes years. Think about that. It takes years. This is not something that magically happens. The quickest you can do it, the quickest, is about 4 or 5 years in the history of time. Now, again, Jeff Bezos, for example, another example, took him 6-7 years to become a billionaire. Even more than that. Might have even been more than that. But it takes time. On average, it takes decades, not 4, 5, 6 years. But again, this is something I want you guys to think about. Just even when you're starting a business, even though it's improbable of people starting $1 billion company, is that are you willing to do the same thing every day with no guaranteed return of success? Do that every day for 4 or 5 years, pretty much make no money for yourself that entire time, just to have that chance at becoming a success. Now you have, again, another requirement is that you have to enjoy it. You have to enjoy the ride, because 4 or 5 years of your life is a long, long time to do something you hate just to make some money. So you have to like it. You have to like what you do. All right, last thing I want to talk about here is actually careers, because this is also important too. So it's very, very rare that, again, you have to start a business. But it's rare that you will become a billionaire if you start a nail salon. It is very rare that you will be able to become a billionaire if you start, a small restaurant chain, right? And you don't want to. I know someone personally who doing very well, but they don't want to expand outside a certain area. If you want to become a $1 billion company, you have to expand pretty much nationally or internationally, and you have to do it in a few fields too. So careers in tech, Wall Street, and real estate make up more than 50% of everyone on the Forbes 400 list. So those three things. So pretty much tech, finance, and real estate. Those are the three giant things, three different career paths that usually end up, that a lot of billionaires have. Those three spaces. So, and out of those, most of them are in tech. So for example, you think about the Microsoft guys, Facebook, I think Paul Allen passed away recently, rest in peace. You have Microsoft guys, Facebook, Snapchat, Airbnb, Uber, Amazon, whoever, all those giant tech companies, all those people that co-founded them or founded them, they're all scattered throughout the Forbes 400. They take up a large portion of the Forbes 400 list. So tech companies are a big one. Wall Street takes up about 20%. So you think of guys like Jamie Dimon, George Soros, Ray Dalio, James Simons, all those guys, billionaires, started their own or joined early on or became CEOs of giant investment firms or hedge funds. So Wall Street, and then real estate, we got Donald Bren, Donald Trump, and guys like Jeff Sutton, and there's a bunch of other ones there. And a lot of billionaires too, they just invest in real estate too. Once they actually make their money or cash out, a lot of them will just go up and buy a bunch of land somewhere and it'll be worth $1 billion. Like Jeff Bezos owns a ton of land. I think he's one of the largest landowners in the United States. Same with Ted Turner too. Ted Turner, I think he owned more land. I think he's the largest real estate owner in America. I think that he owns more land than Rhode Island. It's like greater than the land area of Rhode Island or something like that. I heard that somewhere, but anyways, I think that's going to cover it. So that's pretty much what it takes. The moral of this is you got to start a business and you got to take risks. You got to join stuff early on. I mean, it's not simple. It's not a simple thing. You can't invest in stocks and get there. You can't just buy a house and get there. You can't just save up a lot. Even if you were to become an executive and make $500,000 a year and invest all of that money over the course of 40 years, you're not going to become a billionaire. It's just not going to happen. So anyways, I think that's it. So what do you guys think of this? Did I miss anything? Are there any other requirements that I missed? Leave a comment down below. Make sure to like this video if you did like this video. And remember to hit that subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this. And also, I hope that you guys have liked some of my vlogs of me actually starting a business. I'm going to continue more of those in the coming weeks. Right now, actually, I'm working on a side thing right now. But I'm gonna keep that t-shirt business going. I'm going to keep vlogging, and I'm going to start designing logos and marketing it very, very soon. So stay tuned for the updated vlog for that. Anyways, I'd like to thank you very much for watching. Also, one more time, if you want to support this channel, check out joisk.com. We got a bunch of stuff on sale on sale there for a lot of stuff like video games, lowest price on the internet. So I think that's going to wrap it up. You're all very beautiful people. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.